Hello everyone, in this video I'll be showcasing the best weapons in Splatoon Raiders to give you an idea what works great all the way through the main story as well as into the bottomless buffet. So this will be encountering both the early game weapons and how viable they are, as well as getting into the late game where things do change around a bit. So I'll be breaking down all of that in this video, and all 11 different weapons will be covered in this. And I'll quickly break down some of the basics here. So from the 11 weapon types, you can press the left control stick here to have an idea of what they are in each of the categories. So we have Splattershots here, and there are different versions. Like there's the balanced shooter here for the Splattershot. You can get the Squelcher, which is more of a long range version of that. So you got a couple different ways that this can be done up. And there's also the junior versions as well. Now we also got the rollers here, which come with a heavier and a regular variant. There are chargers, and these also have two different variants for them. Sloshers, which come with a variety of different damage types, which I'm showing you guys here. We also got the Splatlings, which you have to charge up and then fire. The Dualies, or tin cans, which comes with a dodge roll, which will boost up the damage after you roll. The Brellas, which function as somewhat like a shotgun with a shield attached to it. We also have Blasters, my favorite weapon in the game by far. Hits hard and huge area of effect attack on it. Brushes, which are amazing early on in the game, but I do find they fall off a bit later in the bottomless buffet. We got these Stringers here, which are very powerful of a single target type attack, and then these Splatanas, which are a ton of fun to use. And you may notice that some weapons will become Primo weapons. Now the best place to find these is actually in the bottomless buffet, but for example, between the pulley brush and the Primo version here, this is going to give it the max attack area and effect and ink coverage, so it ends up being a little bit better. And to give you an idea of what that ends up looking like, here's the non-Primo and there's the Primo version. So again, I'll use this here. So this is the non-Primo version, and then here's the Primo brush. So it ends up having a larger radius to it, and whatever the effects may be, it'll be the maximum possible roll for it. And some of these Primo effects can be actually really good. So for example, I have a Primo Toy Claw Blaster here, which is insane because it has the max ink efficiency. I never run out of ink while using it. But I'm gonna start off with the basic weapon here, the Splattershots. Now, these are pretty okay, but later on in the game they fall off. They're a good beginner option to get comfortable with how the game works, because you can spray it out and give yourself ink in the early game, which is something you struggle with until you get to the late game and get things like the speed tank, which will let you create ink on the ground just naturally. This is a solid weapon, but I wouldn't even put it in the top 5 best weapons. It is a solid option for many people just because it is a consistent weapon that's just going to give you a fast fire rate against targets, but out of the damage of this thing, it is just not as high as some of the other weapons that we do have in this game, so I can't rank it too high on this, but there are some fun options. And you also have the Squelcher there, as well as a Splattershot, which gives you a long range attack, which is nice, especially if you're using like a distance style build here. You can see the range that we get with this one. So I do typically prefer the Squelchers depending on your setup. Like if you're doing a tactical tank setup, you can run with that and have a bit more success. Now I will do a tier list as I get a little bit further with this. I'm already in the depths, like 130, 40 levels. But as far as these go, I wouldn't even rank them again top 5. Next up though is the rollers. Now these actually have a cool effect because you can actually get a very heavy hitting one here, which is a lot more damage, as you guys can see, and it has a vertical swing. So if you're doing a flying style build, like up in the air, this is where it gets good, because normally with this you do like an attack here, it creates ink in an area of effect, and then you can press and hold it and roll around. It's not as fast as the brushes, but it is a pretty solid option. My favorite ability of it though is the jump attacks, which gives you a huge amount of ink in a long area of effect. So if you're using a build where you're up into the sky often, you can actually just fly up here and start attacking with this, giving you not only a melee style build, but also a range attack, because you can just focus on flying around like this. And then when you get down to the ground, you can do some pretty fun stuff with it. Now, this is another weapon that I really enjoy personally, but I don't think this fits a lot of play styles. So that does bring it down a bit. So I wouldn't actually rank it that great on this. I will do like a top 5 weapons near the end of this video, and again, a future video on a tier list. But as far as rollers go, they're pretty okay. The damage from the heavy hitter is great, but with the heavy hitter, you attack so slow. I just don't like it that much, because if you whiff an attack and miss, you're just out of business. So yeah, it is fun, but I like the faster version of the roller. Those feel a bit lackluster, so I'll actually go over one that is really good here with blasters. Now, one thing that you would really like to grab on a blaster and a lot of the heavy hitting weapons is getting the freeze and icebreaker. I was lucky to get a 3-star icebreaker, which makes frozen salmonids take 5 times the damage when they're attacked by a weapon which is frozen, and it'll break the frozen status. But this is amazing because you can apply frozen pretty consistently with certain setups, especially the speed tank. So having a 10% chance to apply freeze and then doing 5 times damage, this is the highest possible damage. Now, with blasters, blasters, what they do best is they hit in an area of effect. So this is great with the freeze because you can hit and take out multiple targets at a time. also freezing them. And then when you actually hit a frozen target, this thing does heavy damage. And you can see here with the ink efficiency, like this is able to just fire endlessly here. So it is really nice. What I like doing most with this is the jump bomb. So you get up in the air and this just gives you an easy way of just bombing from above. It has a huge range too. As you can see, it will burst in the air there. So if you don't hit a target, you can sometimes just get the splash damage off, but a direct hit will always give you the highest possible damage. Now with this particular setup, my jump bombs apply freeze 100% of the time. You can also have the dash bomb or the jump boots be able to apply that as well. So there's a lot of ways to actually freeze 100% of the time, giving insane damage values. The blaster, in my opinion, is one of the best weapons in this game. It just hits hard, and in the late game when there's a lot of enemies that are just oftentimes grouped up, this can help take care of things like the flying towers where there's a bunch of birds up there. So it's a very strong weapon. Honestly, one of the best in the game, especially if you get a Primo with a reduction to the amount of ink that you end up using, because you'll just be able to endlessly fire this thing. It is an absolute beast. So the particular role that I have is the long range blaster with max ink efficiency here. So you can get other versions of this as well. So it just really depends on like what you want, but I prefer going with the longer range version. These are gonna be like the toy horn versions versus like the oil or butane blasters. So yeah, you can get a couple different versions of this. I like the long range version a bit more. Now I just want to quickly talk about chargers because they're kind of on the other end of the spectrum. Like compared to the blasters, they're a slow firing weapon. I don't personally like it, but it can have some decent setups there. Like that's 40k damage with this particular one here. So if you get a full charge, it does do a decent amount of damage. You can fire it at a minimum charge, but honestly, the blaster just ends up being better for it because it's a heavy hitting weapon that'll do a splash of damage. Whereas if you're going against a target here, it will pierce through them, which can be nice in certain situations, but you can have your gadgets pierce through targets. I just don't find this to be a very useful weapon a lot of the time because you do have to charge it. And there's a lot of weapons that require you to charge in this game, but this one you can see if we're up high in the sky, you aren't getting a lot of damage because you have to be on the ground to pierce them. And in the late game, that's not always the best thing to be doing. So chargers, I don't like that much, but next up we have sloshers. Now sloshers are interesting because these can actually hit pretty hard and they have a fast fire rate. So there's balanced sloshers and then there's the explosive sloshers that'll have a larger attack radius. So what's nice about them is this is the slower version, but it has a pretty large attack radius here. These hit really hard though. That's like the thing with the sloshers is you want to use them whenever you're doing like a freeze build. Because you can see here, we got the direct hit doing 22k damage and then the 12k explosion. So this hits really hard. I also have a nice setup here where the salmon will become fermented, which is nice. That just gives us a further damage boost. Freeze is best, fermented second, and scorch is like the third best. But yeah, I like this. It does require you to spam the attack button compared to the blaster, which I will just prefer. But this is a very solid option and it is good into the late game. So this is one that just holds up early on. If you get a good Primo whenever you start the bottomless buffet, it can actually carry you. It's good close range, it's good long range because it does have crazy range, you can see here. So you can just chuck away a bunch of these here. This just makes the Slosher one of the best weapons in the game, in my opinion. I think it's solid. But next up we have an interesting one. Some people love it, some people hate it. Splatlings. Now, I have this one here, max ink efficiency. It has a cool like sign on it, but you can also get a high capacity Splatling, which is a little bit different than that. So depending if you want the faster charge up rate. So this one will charge up here and you can see it doesn't have the best range to it. So you actually have to get kind of close when you're using this. Otherwise you'll end up missing a bunch of shots. I don't like the charge aspect to it because you constantly have to be getting into a flow of using this, which is not always everyone's favorite situation. That's why I mentioned this is like one that not everyone's going to love, but it does do solid damage. I just think that if you're going to go for a high damage setup, freeze is going to be the best. And this doesn't play well with freeze because it's only doing about 5k damage per shot. So not one of my favorites, but some people may like it. Now, one that I think a lot of people do enjoy is the Dualies. These come with a dodge roll, and you can actually get a Primo one, which will give you a max dodge roll speed and rate of fire. So you're firing off here, you got your dodge here, so whenever you dodge, you do more damage afterwards. So these can be nice because it gives you a bit of momentum whenever you're moving around. So this is more so for builds that are sticking to the ground, and you recharge your dodges really quickly. The only problem with these is you need to have some form of ink sustain. I have like a few gadgets that give back ink because this thing runs through it. So it is fun, especially if you wanted to do like a pseudo speed tank, like using the tacticals and give yourself some dodges on it. But they are honestly strong for a lot of setups, but run out of ink quickly. And you can see here, there's a couple different ones. There's some that are higher in damage. They give a higher amount of damage after you end up using it. so you want to dodge roll often with these. Every time that you see that circle pop up, you want to be using it just so that you constantly keep recharging damage. So yeah, this is one weapon that I think is a fine one, but not everyone's favorite. This is like it's a direct upgrade in my opinion over the just regular Splattershot. So yeah, getting that extra mobility does help, and it gives it a boost in damage. But one of the best weapons in the game, I was lucky to get 2 of them here. Primo, Brellas. Brellas are amazing because they do high amounts of damage, but they're like a shotgun. You see they got 50k damage on a single shot. And the cool thing about this is it'll actually apply with the freeze. So all your shots will count and give you that bonus. So, and freeze them there. Yeah, you got a lot of damage with this thing. I don't have the popper on it, but you want to get the ability to break freeze on this. You can hold it down and drop that shield there, which will block attacks for you. But you want to fire this as fast as possible because it's a shotgun and it does a lot of damage. It will run out of ink pretty quickly, that's the only downside, but this thing is good from every single part of the game because you can charge it up and create that umbrella there. Be careful when you're charging though, because it does use up your ink and you can run out of it. But you see there, you can have that run forwards blocking attacks for you. This is one of the best weapons in the game by far. I think the Brellas are incredible. I already went over blasters, you know my opinion, they're very strong, but brushes, I liked brushes a lot. Now, the problem with the brush is that it is really good in the early game because this gives you a way to ink the ground when you don't normally have it unless you're using things like Splatlights. Because you just press and hold and you're going to run quickly with this. So I think this is a weapon that is exceptionally good in the early game for the getaway strategies you need. But as you continue later on where you have things like the speed tank, which is going to give you ground inking naturally, and you can apply that on all the tanks by using this relic here, you don't really need that ability. It is a fast attacking one, but unfortunately the damage output of this thing is just not as high as you need it to be. It kind of functions like a shotgun where it does have like a 3-round burst like right in front of you, so that is really nice. However, we have many other weapons in this game that can just do a whole lot better later on in the game. I personally love the brush. This is one of my favorite weapons to use. When you're doing the main story, the brush is honestly super good, but as you get later on in the game, it just doesn't have the same effects as some of the other weapons, and the damage is just not that good. So as much as I like it, I wouldn't even put this in like the top 5, but if you're doing through the main story, this is one of the best weapons for that. But another one, I unfortunately do not have any 5 stars of these, the Primo stringers here. Now, this one is really powerful. It does have a charge up. This one has the fastest possible charge speed. You can see there 82k damage. It hits really hard. This thing, if you're pairing it with a like frozen style build, will be an absolute beast. I've just never had these drop for me for whatever reason. The game wanted to hide them from me. I think that these are honestly one of the best weapons though. From what I've used, I just have so many good experiences with it. And if you're in the air, it changes it to a vertical shot here, which is just really nice. But yeah, it hits really hard. That's the big thing with these, is that you got a ton of damage when you're using it. It does an explosion. It's got a full charge there of 13k damage, but you saw it there. It hits really hard. So this is a weapon that I personally like. If you like the style, you do have to aim it down and make sure that these all hit. It's more of a single target damage weapon, but it just hits so hard that it is a solid one. Now, before we get into the rankings of the best weapons, Splatanas. I love these. Now, this is like an upgraded version of the brush. Whenever you attack, you do a range attack there. You can see, you can actually get some good range, and you can also charge it. The charges do a lot of damage, so you go ahead there. I'll do a charge against this here to give you an idea of what it does. 66k damage, and you can pop with the freeze on that, so it hits fast, so that's one thing that's got going for it, but it also has that charge attack. You got jump attacks. It is an absolute beast of a weapon here. So you got your horizontal attacks. The charged ones will do twice the damage roughly, and then if you get a full direct hit with it, it does even more damage. This thing is an absolute beast of a weapon. I enjoy using it because you can go up high and get yourself some air with it, and then you can just basically go in and attack close range with it as well. Versatile weapon. I think the Splatanas are one of the best weapons in the game, but if we're to look at the top like 5 styles of weapons, I'm going to put blasters as probably my favorite, especially with the freeze setup. I think this is a very good one because direct hit damage is high and it has an explosion radius for mobbing, for like when you have multiple targets around you. Incredible weapon. I would also rank the Brellas up there, maybe like 2nd place. I'm being a little bit of a favoritism here because I got a really good Primo early on, but I do think the Brella could even go for the 1st place. It's a shotgun and it has a shield. What more can you ask for when it hits this hard? I also would put the Splatana up there, probably like 3rd place. It is a really good weapon. It's got range. It's got a charge attack. It pretty much has everything that you need for a style setup. I'd also throw the stringers up there, although I'm having the worst luck finding a 5-star stringer. Let me know in the comments if you got one, if it's really good. I see this, even with the 4-star, I got a lot of value to using this in the bottomless buffet, so I can imagine that the higher versions, if a 5-star, would be also pretty good. Now for the 5th place best weapon, it's tough. I like the rollers. I think the sloshers are good, or the twin cans. It'd be a combo between any of these here. Twin cans are great. I know a lot of setups work with these very well, especially a power tank setup. And also things like the Splatling are okay, but yeah, it would probably be Blaster number 1, Brella number 2, Splatana 3, the Stringer 4, and then throwing something like the Slosher, Splatling, Twin Cans, or Roller in 5th place. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. I will do a tier list as I get further along with this, almost to the depths 200, so we'll be making our way along there. But yeah, all the weapons in this game are pretty well balanced. I actually think they did a good job with it. Also, check out my tier list where I broke down all 15 gadgets in this game. These are a little more cut and dry, as some of them are just that much better than the others, where weapons you can get by, but freeze ends up being the best option. That's why I think blasters with freeze are just so powerful. But again, let me know your thoughts in the comments, hit the subscribe button below, and we'll catch you in the next one.